What's up everybody, thanks for tuning in once again. This is Javier from Mavic Pro. Today we're gonna go ahead and talk about what's my go-to camera gear for wedding videography in 2021. So stay tuned guys. So for everybody who's actually went ahead and liked my page and supported me in the past, thank you so much. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing and consider liking this video, as I'm here to make sure that I'm helping you guys as much as possible when it comes to cinematic stuff and cinematography. Also, if you guys haven't checked out my new playlist that I've made, I have made a new playlist in regards to my Toyota Supra build. So if you guys are into cars, this might be something that you guys might want to check out. If not, it's all good. But on to what's the real purpose of the video today. So when I first started wedding videography, it was a very daunting idea. I knew it was something that I wanted to do when it came to weddings. It was something that I wanted to capture. I wanted to see couples' faces when they were getting married, and I wanted to make sure that I can create a timeless memory for them so they can watch later on in life and share with their kids. So I knew getting into the wedding business, I was gonna need good equipment and I was gonna have to focus on my production value. And that is part of the reason why when it came to my equipment, I made sure to do my research and I made sure to get equipment that was gonna enhance my production value. Not necessarily dictate how my movie was gonna come out, but overall just make my film production a lot better. So the biggest misconception that I constantly hear and see is people talking about you have to have amazing equipment in order to be able to execute a properly made wedding film. And that's far from the truth. In reality, it's all about preparation, your story, the emotions that you put into it. And yes, your equipment is gonna help you out a little bit better if you know how to use it. But at the same time, it's not something that's fully required for you to have the most expensive camera or the latest and greatest gimbal. You don't need any of that. You can honestly start with basic stuff, which is what I did. And eventually over time, the more weddings I got, I just started building upon that. So let's go ahead and dive into the first thing I want to talk about, which is having lenses. Now, if you're just starting off, you want to make sure that you are getting a lens that's very versatile. If you only have enough money to spare for one lens, I would highly recommend you get a zoom lens, which you have quite a bit of them out there. And depending on the type of camera that you decide to go with, it will determine what kind of lens you can get. But me personally, the first lens that I chose starting off was a Tamron 28-74, I believe it is, 2.8. Now, in my case, I knew that I was gonna have to go with a zoom lens as well, because in weddings, sometimes you don't have the option to go up close to your couple to get that shot. And sometimes you gotta stay behind because either you're in a church and you can't be in the center aisle, you can't be too close to the couple. So what do? You gotta get a zoom lens to kind of help you out with that. And in my case, that's what I decided to do. I decided to go with a Tamron 70-180 millimeter, and this is an f2.8 as well. This is such a great lens, and I would highly recommend this to anybody who is doing weddings. If you cannot afford it in the beginning, definitely put it on your bucket list as one of the first things that you're gonna invest in, because this lens is phenomenal. It's super, super crisp. It makes a nice bokeh in the background, and it's just very sharp, and the autofocus is excellent. The second lens that I have as well is the Tamron 17-28 millimeter 2.8. This one I tend to use probably the least, and this was my last lens that I purchased to complete the Trinity from Tamron. I had such a good experience with the first two ones that I purchased that this was gonna be added. I needed a wide angle one. And this one actually comes in handy with a lot of different stuff that I do. I do a lot of real estate videos as well. So this helps me out when it comes to filming houses inside. But in the wedding scene, this will help you out if you wanna capture a big room or a church and you're walking down the aisle, you just wanna capture everything around. This is the kind of lens that you wanna go with. You wanna make sure that you have everything in focus. This is the one. Very good lens, I highly recommend it. These are all very affordable lenses as well. So ultimately, if you were to get these on sale, all three of them, you're gonna spend probably $2,000, $2,400, around that. And then the primary one, again, the one that I've been using, the one that I'm using at the moment right now is the Tamron 28-72 270 millimeter f2.8, and that's probably gonna be my go-to lens when I have it in my gimbal. That's gonna be my go-to lens if I'm running and gunning it. And it's just a very versatile lens. I cannot complain about that lens. It's super good. The autofocus is amazing. I'm using a Sony A7S III right now, and at all times, I always maintain perfect focus. The next very important thing that you want to go ahead and make sure you're investing on is a camera. If you don't have the budgets or the means to spend $3,500 on a camera, then don't worry, it's all right. You can start off with something basic, or maybe an older generation of a camera, a Sony A7 III. Those are very good cameras that for the longest, a lot of people were using those to film weddings. Before the A7S III came out, that was the go-to camera when it came to Sony. A lot of wedding videographers that I used to follow on YouTube would all talk about that camera. To this day, that's still a camera that I use, but I've mainly moved now to the Sony A7S III, which if you have the money, I would highly recommend this camera. This camera is a workhorse. It doesn't overheat. It films in 120 frames per second, 4K, 60 frames per second as well, 24, you name it. You throw whatever you can at this camera and it just performs amazingly. The low light is superb. You can literally film in almost pitch darkness and capture some kind of image in there. So if you have the money, I would highly recommend this camera. It's phenomenal. They just did an update to it now where you have S-Cinetones, which ultimately is just a color grading built into the camera profile. And it is super easy. You don't even have to really do much color grading when you bring it into post. So S-Log3, super high dynamic range. If you're filming inside of a building and you're capturing your bride get ready and she's next to the window, you're not gonna have a blown out window because this camera can retain so much information in the file. So what's a wedding film without audio? And at that, good audio. That's something that I personally believe makes a good wedding film, and that's having good audio. And with that being said, making sure that you have the good microphones and the good cables to support your microphones is very important. That's why with me, I decided to go with a couple of different microphones to help me capture good wedding vows, capture the toes, capture surrounding sounds, and to be able to add it to my videos. So one of the first things that I've made sure to purchase, and it's something that I use consistently in all my weddings, is the Tascam DR-40X. Now this is a 4-channel input recorder, and the reason why I use this is because you can never have enough backups. So this recorder will record from the 2 microphones, the omnidirectional microphones at the top, or on the bottom you have 2 XLR inputs so that you can record from, let's say, a DJ setup mixer. That's usually what I do. I connect it to the back of some speakers, and this ultimately helps me grab audio directly from the feed that's going into the speaker. You have 2 different audio tracks that you can set up to pick up. Let's say somebody's screaming on the top of their lungs on the mic, and you're getting a lot of clipping. This will actually record a lowered volume one, so you can use that one. And vice versa, if that person is talking too low, it'll also record one at a higher volume, higher decibels, so you can use that one as well. So I would highly recommend something like this. Definitely keep this in your arsenal. I would say this is a go-to for me, and I never leave home without it. The next mic that I have in my inventory is gonna be the Tascam DR-10L. This is a very, very small recorder with a lapel mic that you can attach to your either groom or your bride. I also have a black one, which is the one for the groom. This is the one that I use for the bride. The black one, you could just put it in the pocket of the groom, and definitely add this to your list. I would highly recommend you having one of these because, again, audio makes your film. The next thing I have is gonna be the Deity V-Mic D3. And yeah, it's kind of big, but I have a big boom on it just to avoid any wind. This works wonders. If you wanna have a third backup, I would say this is it. You can put this on top of your camera, you can put it on your gimbal rig. Wherever you wanna put it, this is gonna pick up clear audio in the surrounding area. Another way to increase your production value, now this is gonna be depending if you have the license or not, but having a drone makes, I don't know what it is about having a drone, but most couples that I come across and have a consultation with, one of the questions they always ask is, do you have a drone? And yes, I do. I made sure to invest in a drone. I made sure to get my license, my Part 107, because you cannot make films without having that, at least commercial films. So you wanna make sure that you are setting yourself up for success. And with me, I decided to go with the Mavic 2 Pro. I have the Mavic 2 Pro. I've had this for quite some time now, and I really have no need of upgrading at the moment. I'm sure when the new one comes out, it's gonna be 10 times better. But in the meantime, the Mavic 2 Pro works wonders. The battery life is amazing. I do have the Fly More bundle, which includes 2 additional batteries, so I have a total of 3. And this is something that I highly recommend to anybody who wants to up their game when it comes to making wedding films. This just adds to your production value, especially if you're filming, you know, at a lake or a beach, or you're trying to get that sunset, or you're in a city, you want to get this, you know, establishing shots of the city. This is just another way to really enhance your film, and I would highly recommend this. So let's talk about some of the storage that I would recommend you guys to get. In my case, I decided to go with the Nanuk 935 with the dividers on the inside. And this has been one of the best decisions that I've made when it comes to getting storage for my gear. The reason why I really recommend something like this, and I fall back on this every single time somebody asks me, hey, what's something that you really would recommend me to get? This. Just for the sole fact, you need to carry all your equipment safely. And this makes it so much easier when you're transporting from your car to the venue, because it does have rollers on it that are very, very smooth. And you have the handles on the side and the top, and you have an extension handle where you can just drag it around like a luggage case. So this, if you're traveling, you know, if you're going on an airplane, this is a carry-on size. This works wonders. So highly recommend this. It's a hard plastic. It has so you can lock it up with a lock, and it's just very, very good quality. It's airtight, and I believe it's even waterproof. I'll put that right here if it is. If it's not, I'll also tell you guys. But I highly recommend this. Make sure you guys invest in something like this so that you guys can protect your equipment, especially if you guys have a lot of equipment and valuables. Protect your gear. Last thing you need is your camera to get messed up or your lenses to break. You don't want that. Now, another go-to item that I use for all my weddings is gonna be the Peak Design Everyday Bag. This is something that I carry with me at all times during the day. The reason why is because I have any additional camera equipment in here that I might not have in the Nanuk. And if I'm running and gunning and I just need a quick lens, I can just take this off or open it from the side, pull the lens out, swap it on the camera, and keep it going. So this is something that I have found to use every single time that I have a wedding. And it's very, very lightweight. It's very breathable, and I like all the compartments that it has inside. It's a very good backpack. It protects my equipment very well, and I really have no complaints about it. Even in the front, on the holsters, I have the Peak Design quick release plates. So if I want to hang my camera on here because I need to just have my hands free for the moment, I clip it on here and it holds the camera perfectly fine. Doesn't fall, and then I can just release it again and pull the camera out. So me personally, when I'm filming, I like to make sure that I am exposing correctly. The Feelworld LUT6 helps me achieve that by being able to expose correctly. I do have zebras on here. I can also load all my favorite LUTs onto an SD card and keep them on here. That way, let's say today I want to film with this LUT, and I'm gonna go ahead and color grade accordingly with that LUT. I can load it on here and I can already see what my footage is gonna look like with that LUT. Makes it so much easier when I bring the clips back into production, and the color grading process goes so much easier. Not only that, but if you film in S-Log 3, which is what I film in usually all my weddings, it's kind of hard to really tell what you're exposing to, because usually with a Sony A7S III, you have to expose 1.7 over. And when it comes to weddings, it's such a fast moving environment and day that you're constantly going from, you know, a dark room to sunlight to shadows now. So exposing is gonna be very important. And I found that this makes my life so much easier, so much easier. It comes with a pre-built fan inside as well, so if you are working outside in the heat with the sun beaming on it, it's not gonna overheat. And another thing that I really like about this one is the brightness. I believe it's 2600 nit brightness, which is crazy ridiculous. I could be outside in full-fledged sunlight and I can still see exactly what's on the screen without me having to cover it or having any kind of mask over it or shield or anything like that. So something that people tend to overlook when it comes to wedding gear is your accessories. I learned fairly quickly with my first couple of weddings that having extras of everything is gonna make your life so much easier, and it's gonna help protect you against unnecessary stress. And what I mean stress is, let's say, for example, you only have one HDMI cable that connects your monitor to your camera, and that cable just decides to take a crap that day and go bad on you and not work. True story, that happened to me. And that happened to me within the first 30 minutes of the wedding. So I pretty much was left to use my camera's LCD monitor as my only source of, you know, monitor during the whole day. I rely on the monitor that I have because it just makes my life so much easier. I can load the LUTs on there. Nevertheless, you know, obviously I have practice with my camera without a monitor, so that's not an issue to me, but it's always a good idea to have an extra of everything. And that can be everything from an HDMI cable to batteries. Me personally, I have 4 batteries at all times for the camera, and I always bring a charger. I'm always making sure that I have extra cables for the charger. When it comes to memory cards, you wanna make sure you have multiple memory cards, because the last thing you need is one of your memory cards to go corrupt and now you're left with no memory card to record. And even 2, because I've heard stories of people buying specific memory cards and those tend to corrupt more than others. Me personally, I have a Sony camera, so I decided to go with the Sony, the G-Tough memory cards, and I have 128 gigs. I tend not to go any higher than that, because if you were to get a 256 and it goes corrupt, you just lost a lot of footage. So that is something that I'm always nervous about, so I have that in the back of my head to have multiple ones in case I need backup. Another accessory that I highly recommend is, believe it or not, a dust blower for your lens. I've had a couple of times where I did not use this, and I noticed when I brought the files into post in my computer, there was a speck of dust in all of the video clips, and there's no way to fix that really. If it comes to getting that on a picture, you can always Photoshop that out or you know, use a blemish tool, but when it comes to post, yeah, it's on there. So these are cheap. You can get different size ones. I always have one on me because, again, you never know when you might get a piece of dust or grass or anything on there and you need to have it blown off. Also, it's a good practice to always have microfiber cloths with you at all times, because the last thing you want to do is use your shirt and now you just smudge your glass, your lens. Don't do that, guys. Just carry a microfiber, 1 or 2, and then one of these, and that'll save you a world of headache later on the road. Also, when it comes to lenses, you guys want to make sure that you have a variable ND. I have the Polar Pro Peter McKinnon edition, and it works good for me. I have no complaints. It makes my life so much easier when I'm trying to expose correctly, especially if I'm using S-Log. It's just twisting it, make it darker, make it lighter, and just think of it as sunglasses for your lens. Especially if you're outside, you definitely want to have sunglasses for your lens to protect it. But I would definitely recommend this to anybody. This is another go-to that I would say, yeah, invest in. I bought this within the first week of me owning my camera, and I don't regret it. Communication is very important, especially if you have a second shooter, and there's no better tool to have than a pair of walkie-talkies. Yes, walkie-talkies brings you back to your childhood, right? No, it does, but no, this, believe it or not, comes in handy. especially if you have an assistant who's helping you out and you are down by the beach and she's by the hotel and you need a lens or you need a pair of batteries or something like that. Instead of you having to stop everything that you're doing to run over there and get her attention or find something, hey, you just hit her up, hey, I need a camera, or I need my second camera, or I need my gimbal, bring it please. Or if you're just trying to communicate with your second shooter and you need a, hey, can you focus on getting some cake shots and B-roll while I focus on the bride and the groom? This comes in handy. Always keep one of these. I have 2 of them. Actually, no, I have a third one. I never really use the third one. It's only 2 shooters most of the time. And unless I need like a third one for an assistant or a third shooter, which is very rare, it never happens. But this is something that you guys can use, and this is something that I use in all my weddings. So, highly recommend it. So if you guys see a lot of videos out there right now when it comes to filming weddings, the first thing you'll notice is most people have a gimbal. Now, everyone has their own preference, whether to use a gimbal, when to use a gimbal, and which gimbal to use. And honestly, it's up to you. You need to find what's your style, what makes it easier for you, and you know, is this something that you want to be carrying all day or not? In my case, I have found that personally, I like the look of gimbals. And as long as you're not overly using it and making too much motion and it's not hindering your footage in any shape or form, and you know how to use them and how to actually make your footage look that much better with it, as opposed to just using it and not knowing what you're doing with it, this is a tool that I would say is a really good one to have in your bag. I always carry this with me. I always use my gimbal. And I have the DJI RS2. I decided to go with the DJI RS2 Pro, and I came from the DJI Ronin S, which was another great product made by DJI. The only problem to me was carrying that all day long was a workout. By the end of the day of carrying that gimbal, my arm and back was killing me. When I say I would get home tired, and it was just a workout, man. I felt like I had gone to the gym for 2 days straight, because with the gimbal itself, the monitor, the mic, any additional accessories that you might add to it, it was a good 35, 40 pounds, I would say, especially with the camera and the lenses. So this was one of the reasons why I decided to go with this and upgrade to this, because it is made out of carbon fiber. It tends to be, I would say, 30% lighter, 30 to 35% lighter than the Ronin S. And believe it or not, that makes a huge difference. I love my gimbal. I love this Ronin. It has given me no issues. Super light, very good looking, and the way they designed it with the screen on the front, if you need to access anything quickly and adjust anything on the fly, you don't need your phone. So DJI Ronin RS2 is my go-to gimbal when it comes to weddings, and I would always go to a wedding with one of these. So I hope this video was of some use for you guys, and I hope that I was able to clarify some of the things that you might be needing coming into wedding videography. Again, guys, this is not something that you need to follow as a template, but I would highly recommend you guys to really do your research and really see what it is that you think you need for your business to be, you know, to start off well. And ultimately, invest in yourself, guys. Invest in yourself, invest in your business. Make sure you're investing in your knowledge, practice, and prep. You know, execution is everything when it comes to weddings. And if you're out there looking like a lost, you know, chicken, not knowing what you're doing, your clients will see that. So make sure that you guys are going in there prepared, and don't think that it's having the best equipment is gonna make you look like you know what you're doing. No, when it comes down to the moment, knowing how to use your camera, your equipment, your drone, your gimbal, knowing what shots to look for, that's all gonna come before any equipment that you might have purchased. So with that being said, guys, if you guys have any questions or, you know, any feedback as far as what my video talks about, go ahead and shoot a comment down below. I will definitely get back to you guys. And if you already haven't done so, go ahead and like this video. Again, guys, this is Javier from Mavic Hero Films. Peace.